Welcome to Beyond Food and Wine, a Cordon Bleu podcast. In this podcast, we get some real insight into the food and hospitality industry from a variety of renowned chefs, industry experts, and Le Cordon Bleu alumni. Join us as we hear the fascinating stories and unique experiences behind some of the best-known names in the industry. Hello and welcome to the show. Today we're delighted to be joined by Charlotte O'Kelly, who is a Le Cordon Bleu alumna. Thank you for joining us today, Charlotte.
Thank you for having me.
We are in your beautiful bakery, Astrid, which has been open just a few weeks. How's it been going?
Yes, my beautiful tiny little bakery. We're squashed in at the back. It's been going amazingly well. We've been open for 3 weeks now. And the first week was a soft launch, so we really are feeling our way through. We're only open a few days a week at the moment, but we have had queues around the block every day, which has blown us all away.
That's fantastic. Really, really amazing to hear. I'm so pleased for you.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the beginning a little bit. Charlotte, you're an alumna, as I mentioned. What drew you to come to Le Cordon Bleu London, and have you always sort of wanted to work in hospitality?
I wouldn't say I always wanted to work in hospitality. I did my rites of passage as a waitress, working in hotels, doing weddings and stuff as a teenager. But I have always been a baker at home. Always made cakes. Always was in the kitchen as a child and later as an adult, a young adult, and as a parent. Always struggled with bread. And really always wanted to learn how to make bread. And I mean, Le Cordon Bleu is number one in terms of prestige. And I suppose I wanted to learn from the best. So I did the Boulangerie diploma a few years ago now, all through sort of pandemic times.
Yeah.
And it was, obviously, I learned about bread, and I learned that the reason that I hadn't been able to do it before was because I had been rushing things. I hadn't had enough patience. Bread, obviously, is all about time, and I'd been trying to do things in a faster way because I was always with my kids. Loved the whole experience, learned so much, learned a lot about bread, but also about other yeasted products. And as soon as I started to learn about pastries, that was the thing that really set the fires burning. I fell in love with.
Fantastic. And you're actually a career changer. So what really sparked your decision to change careers, would you say?
Well, yeah, this is a second career for me. I was previously a fashion journalist and stylist and had an amazing fun time traveling the world doing exciting, glamorous things until I had my family. When I did stop working when I had my second daughter. I've got 4 children who are now between 16 and 10. So they're all quite close together. So I had quite a long time at home with them, which was fantastic. But I did really want to retrain, and that was when I started at the Cordon Bleu. And it, you know, the course fitted in well with my life, and yeah, enabled me to keep looking after my kids and retrain at the same time.
Sure, great. So would you say it's been an easy transition for you from, well, obviously having quite a fast-paced lifestyle to the fast-pacedness of parenthood to now?
Yeah, transition's hard, I think, for everybody. And I think all of this transition for me has happened at a time where the world was in a lot of transition. And so it's felt very in keeping with the mood of the world.
Yeah.
Big personal changes for me at the same time as everybody was experiencing a lot of change. So it hasn't been without difficulties. It's been a big change in terms of how I organise my time and how I have to do things, which is a lot of the time at night time, in the early hours of the morning. I've had to, like I'm sure a lot of working parents have to become quite vampiric to
Yes.
survive. But certainly the transition into doing work that's sort of publicly visible and paid has been really exciting for somebody who didn't have that for a lot of years.
Yeah, definitely. Would you say anything kind of crosses over from the kind of fashion world and into pastry specifically, which is very visual?
Absolutely. I mean, I just was talking to my parents the other day, who had to come and help me with the kids. This feels like the culmination of all of the things I've ever done in my life. The fashion world's, you know, all about how things look and how also how they function. And obviously food is about appearance, but it's predominantly about flavour. It's about how things taste and how they eat. And so that combination of function and beauty has been really important. In terms of the journalism that I've done, there were so many skills that have been really useful in terms of building up my Instagram, which isn't massive, but which is quite has been a really exciting creative outlet for me, and I've used it for quite a lot of writing as well as photography, and latterly more videos, which are a bit harder work. But I've really enjoyed that visual documenting side of what I've been doing, and the building the story of Astrid, which is my story, and working out how to say enough without completely revealing all my inner workings and being too deep about it. Yeah. But it has been something which has allowed me to be reborn as a person without sounding too strong about it. It's been an exciting creative project, everything about it, from start to finish, from the food to developing the brand to finding this space and designing it. And the whole process has gone alongside a process for me of rediscovering who I am now and becoming more confident as a person.
That's brilliant. That's so nice to hear. And I think, you know, obviously not going into it too much, but people do like to see that personal element, and that's, you know, kind of story and people realizing their passion is very important and people engage with that. And that's why
I think for me, particularly as a middle-aged woman, as a mum, I think a lot of people have really connected with that idea that I have managed to find a passion and turn it into a business, and that I've managed to do that at the same time as having 4 kids. I do think that's created a connection with people. Definitely. I mean, it's been a long-held dream of mine to have a little space like this, and it's brilliant to feel the support from everybody and the connection.
Well, it's inspiring, truly. Good for you.
Thank you.
So, have you found it's a very different landscape to work in compared to kind of journalism and fashion? How's hospitality treating you?
I don't know. I don't know if I really feel like I'm qualified to say that I work in hospitality, actually, because, you know, the first few years of this business was me in my home kitchen in the middle of the night. So it was quite a lonely pursuit. And so I was providing hospitality services, but not within a traditional framework. And similarly here, this is a tiny space designed by me. And now that we're a few weeks in, I'm starting to see maybe some of the things we're missing. But I think because I haven't worked in a professional kitchen, I haven't worked in other bakeries, we do things the way that feels like the right way for us. And so it truly is an extension of a home bakery at a larger scale. And that probably means we do some things less effectively, but I think it probably means we do some things, more effectively and with care, with the care of a home baker.
And I think if it works, then it's not wrong. You know, you have to kind of, when it's your business, you have to kind of do things in the way that suit you. So I would say that's good. Well, speaking of your starting into the world post the Cordon Bleu, can you tell me a little bit about how you actually kind of hit the ground with your first business in hospitality?
Yeah. What happened is my course at the Cordon Bleu, I started it in January 2020, and then it was obviously lockdown in the March of that year. So I had most of the first term as normal. And then there was lockdown, and they did manage to restart a lot of the lessons, and we completed the course, but I think in a bit of a different way than courses before or since.
Yeah.
But that's what it was, and I was thrilled to have that place to go and those things to learn. And I was really excited to practice baking at home and practicing breads and pastries at home, and my poor family could eat no more. And so I did think what I was really enjoying doing was making a variety of products. And I just one day I thought, you know what, somebody would really like that little selection for their breakfast, a bit of everything. And that was the beginnings of the seeds of the idea for the breakfast boxes. And so I finished the course, and then sort of simultaneously with finishing, I did some test bakes and sent out some boxes to some friends locally, friends and family locally, and sent out a box with some breads and pastries and a questionnaire asking what they thought about it. Had a really great response to that, and more than anything, really enjoyed the process of the midnight baking and packing the things into the boxes and to choosing the menu. And that was it. And so the week after that, I started selling them. We'd been building a website in the background, and we sold online, delivered locally initially. My husband and I driving them around, that soon had to stop because after an overnight bake. So I found an amazing driver locally who was able to deliver and make that really seamless and stress-free for me. So then, it was every week, sometimes twice a week of an overnight bake during lockdown. And it just kept growing, and the demand was huge. And of course, I was always mindful that it was lockdown and people were looking, there was that boom in delivery food services. So I didn't sort of feel like I'd struck gold there and I'd found the idea that was going to be it. But I knew there was a demand for the products and that people kept coming back and they were enjoying the products. So that's when I started to think about maybe getting a production space somewhere so I could move it out of my house. And then I spent a really long time looking for a production space or a retail space, and both of which proved to be really difficult and really expensive. So that stalled us for a bit. And then this space came up, which is near where I live. So that worked. It was just about big enough. We could redevelop it to give what I needed. Plus it had a small, bricks and mortars presence on the street, which I thought would be an interesting avenue to explore.
Yeah.
And so this was a really long process to do this. We had loads of complications with the building work and the leases and all of, I think, the usual stuff that everybody has, but it did take me by surprise how long it all took. And the aim here was to think about continuing with the breakfast box core business, but obviously also having that window onto the street so people could come and pick up a coffee and one pastry rather than having to buy a whole box, and also potentially develop our wholesale relationships because we've been approached by some really exciting brands to work with them.
Lovely.
Now we're 3 weeks in and we are flat out. We've had such a wonderful response from the community. It has blown us away a little bit. So in fact, now instead of thinking about wholesale, my time is now spent working out how we can increase production and offer more and be open more days. So that's the immediate sort of preoccupation. But I really would love to get back to doing the breakfast boxes, particularly because I love that.
Yeah, well, you've been kind of fortunate in that you've had some good ways to test out things in a kind of non-permanent way, and perhaps you might end up in a bigger place and before long. We've certainly had other kind of alumni who've expanded in that way, and well, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
but it's very exciting. I'm so so glad that everything seems to have been running along nicely. What have some of the highlights and challenges been, or challenges and highlights
So many. I mean, the whole thing's been a challenge, and the whole thing's been a highlight. I mean, I've really approached the whole journey, as I said, as a creative project, as a whole brand, as a food experience, as a sort of personal endeavor. And so to see that slowly, to go slowly, and to see that, start seeing the progress of that is, I mean, just completely thrilling, because I have moved slowly. I've gone at a sort of organic, sustainable pace, because I don't want to jump into something massive and not to be able to support it. It's been a huge challenge personally, but a huge highlight has been, opening the hatch at the front as we have now on that first morning, and seeing a queue of, feel quite overwhelmed even talking about it now. It's just beyond the wildest dreams of anybody who makes food. I mean, anybody who's a baker or a chef, we're feeders. We love to feed people, and to see people lining up to come and get your food is an unbelievable feeling.
It is a real, cinematic moment, don't you think?
It's felt like that for me, for sure. And I have to say, I did take a moment that morning, because I had all my kids were in the shop that day, washing up, stamping cups. It was full of my family. It was full of my friends outside. It was full of my customers supporting me. And it felt like a full circle moment, as they say. And I hope the first of many more moments like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. So when people come across your beautiful little bijou bakery, what can they expect to find, and what are some of the must-try products?
Well, I hope that people will come around the corner and say, what's that lovely little shop that's super cute, first of all. I think based on the last few weeks, they can expect to find a queue outside, so they want to be an early bird. But when we wheel the trolley into the front in the morning, they can expect to find some delicious warm pastries straight out of the oven. In terms of specific ones that people love, this cinnamon bun since day one, haven't changed the recipe. Everybody loves it. But we've been doing quite a few pistachio croissants here, which people have been coming back for time and time again. So I'd say those are the big two at the moment.
Nice, very nice. And we've kind of, you're taking it slowly, but do you kind of have aspirations to expand further, or anything exciting on the horizon?
Yes, I do. It's been slow, and it's been a creeping progress, but I can't give this up now. And I'm really ambitious for the bakery, and I don't know exactly what form that's going to take, but I do want to. I really enjoy the contact with the customers, so that would be amazing to have a bigger space one day where people can come in and sit down and experience Astrid more fully than from a takeaway hatch. The delivery, there is a huge market for delivery there, and so that's something we sort of stepped into, but requires a lot more development, but also a bigger production space. And there are loads of really exciting brands that I would love to work with, as I said, some of whom have already approached us. And so there are 3 prongs that I'd like to explore in the future. So yeah, definitely not. We're starting tiny, but this isn't the end of the story.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to be tracking it closely, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We're going to be back at the weekend, no doubt, to come and eat all of the pastries. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond Food and Wine, a Le Cordon Bleu podcast. Keep up to date with all our news and episodes by following us on social media or by signing up to our newsletter. Links are included in the episode notes. Until next time, à bientôt!